Welcome everybody. Bienvenidos a todos. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on when you're watching. Welcome to En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. Every Monday, as you know, we have cooking demonstrations by some of our community's most knowledgeable chefs, restaurant owners, authors, writers, people from all over the world and all over the country, bringing their secret recipes directly to you on En Casa con la Plaza. If you're here, if you're on chat, please feel free to chat with us. If you're on Zoom, chat with us. You know we have our Q&A, get your questions answered. I think our guests will give us some secrets. If you're on Zoom, if you're on Facebook, use our comment section to let us know where you're coming from. Ask questions, make comments. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to En Casa con la Plaza Cocina's official host, Jimena Martin, the Director of Programs and Culinary Arts. So please take it away, Jimena.
Thank you, Everaldo. Gracias. Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we have a special guest all the way from New York City. Lesley Tellez is author of Eat Mexico, Recipes from Mexico City Streets, Markets, and Fondas, and founder of Eat Mexico Culinary Tours, which operates small private food tours in Mexico City. I wish I can go. I love a private tour. As a freelance journalist and recipe developer, Lesley has written about the intersection of Mexican food, culture, and identity for Taste Magazine, Eating Well, Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, and the LA Times and other publications. She was also an editor and contributor to Nistamal, a guide to masa preparation in the United States, published by Macienda. Lesley was born and raised in Southern California and currently lives in New York City with her husband and her 2 children. I'm so happy to have you back. We met a while back ago at a Plática y Prueba at La Plaza.
Yeah.
You were here to do a little story for us with KCET on our Pláticas y Prueba over the history of chiles with Oscar from El Machete.
Yes, and I love El Machete. Big shout out to El Machete, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today, Lesley is going to prepare tacos dorados de zanahoria with a salsa de tomatillo. So
Yes.
Take it away, Lesley.
Thank you, Jimena, and thank you so much for having me again to lead a cooking demonstration. I'm really excited to be here and to welcome everybody to my New York City kitchen. So what I'm going to do today is make, it's actually a recipe from my book. So they're what a lot of people would call taquitos. So what I grew up knowing is taquitos. So they're rolled up corn tortillas stuffed with shredded carrot that you fry in a little bit of oil until they're nice and crispy. And then I like to serve them with some tomatillo salsa and a little crema and queso fresco on top. They're super easy. They're really good. And honestly, they're one of the things I feel like right now when I have 2 small kids, they're 2 and 5, and I don't have a lot of motivation at the end of the day to make this big complicated thing. So they're actually fairly easy to do and deceptively like simple and good. You would think, you know, what else? Doesn't this need something else? And it actually doesn't. It works just like it is. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make the salsa. This is exactly the order that I would do it in, you know, on any given day if I was making it at home. Rather, if I was making it for my family, because I am at home. So the first thing I have is some tomatillos that I got. You can kind of see them. I got them at our farmer's market here I live in Jackson Heights in Queens. So these are going to be really fresh and good. And you can see the color. Is this really pretty green, like kind of deep green color. And that's like the best color. That's the color that you want if you're buying these at the supermarket. I like the smaller size, which sometimes they sell them in the market as a milpero, tomatillo milpero. If you can't find the milpero, you can buy the bigger ones, but I think the milperos, the smaller ones, tend to have more flavor. So they come in this little papery husk, tomatillos, and we don't eat the husk. We want to peel off the husks, and they have this like sticky stuff underneath. that is not dirt. It's just, I think, like the natural sugar that lives in the husk. So the other thing about, look at this cute little guy. Sorry, he's very cute. So the other thing about choosing tomatillos is you want really firm, you don't want wrinkled ones, and it's hard to tell when you're at the store and you just pick up a handful and stick it in the plastic bag. I always buy extra, so if depending on whatever your recipe calls for, I usually get like another extra handful, because most times I start peeling the husk away and sometimes they're wrinkled. You can see sometimes a lot of them come in this lighter green color, which is okay too. I think the super pale, watery green color, I would avoid those. But wrinkled is even a worse sign that they're gonna go bad, so you don't wanna use the wrinkled ones. But for the salsa, so I'm just gonna peel off this husk and then rinse them off. And even after you rinse them off, they're still gonna have a little bit of the, oh, you see, here's one that's kind of cracked. So I'm gonna choose another one for my bowl of extras over here. But what I was gonna say is, on rinsing them, they still, it's like kind of impossible to get all that sticky feeling off. So when I first started working with tomatillos, I'd rinse and be like, why aren't they clean? But it turns out that's just the way they are. So you can just rinse them and move on to the next thing. But yeah, this recipe, I tasted these tacos when I lived in Mexico City. As Jimena said, I was born in LA, grew up in the Inland Empire, and went to college on the East Coast. And I lived for 4 years in Mexico City. My husband and I moved there. It was amazing. I moved there, honestly, to improve my Spanish and to just have more of a connection to my culture, Mexican American. So I moved there in 2009, and I did not have a job, did not know what I was going to do with my life. But I kind of let myself figure it out, which was pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to rinse these really fast. Give me 1 second. All right. So I moved to Mexico City, and I just fell in love with the food there. And I ended up going to cooking school in Mexico City at this place called the Escuela de Gastronomía Mexicana, which is still around. They do a lot of really good Mexican food programming. I went there, I studied, I did a diploma program, and I did a diploma program in Mexican cooking. So we learned kind of Mexican cooking 101, from salsas to making tortillas on the metate, like starting from the nixtamal, which was amazing. We made chocolate on the metate, which was amazing. But yeah, so I went to Mexico City, I studied Mexican cooking, and I decided, like, shortly after, to write a cookbook. But while I was, living in Mexico City and, eating there, I went to my friend's fonda, which is like a home style place where they would serve home style food, and usually like a comida corrida, so 3 courses at an economical price, usually a rice, a soup, and like a main course. And I saw tacos dorados de zanahoria, which is like golden fried tacos with carrot. I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this in my life. I had been living there a couple of years, I think, at that point. And it was just amazing. It was this rolled up taco with carrot in it. And when I was researching my book, I remembered this taco. That's how much it made a difference in my life. I was like, I need to put this taco in my book. So I actually didn't have Miguel at the time. I didn't have his phone number. I wasn't sure how to get in touch with him. I wasn't living in Mexico City anymore, so I didn't even remember where. This was like kind of before social media explosion, I think, but didn't remember where his fonda was to even go again. So, but I remembered the taste. And that's actually like a lot of how I develop my recipes is starting from a place of taste memory, or starting from a place of how do I want this to taste. And I remembered it being really simple and delicious. And so I sort of started from there. And that's where I got this recipe from, was from eating at Miguel's fonda.
Lesley, I have some folks here. I've got some viewers from Colombia, from West Covina, Lola from Colorado. Dan Salcedo says, you know, we're talking about the green tomatoes and the stickiness. Says the sticky stuff on the tomatillo skins comes from the chemical called with anolides, which along with the husk helps ward off insects.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Isn't that cool?
That is awesome. Thank you for that. What is it called again?
Oh gosh, I hope I say this right. With anolids? With anolids. With anolids. Also, I have Lola from Colorado. She was also cooked.
Hi, Lola.
He wants, you know, I was talking about your cookbook, which I do have a copy of myself, because after our KCET conversation, here's my book. You had just opened up, you just started your book, and we had you do a book talk.
Yeah.
And you did the tomatillo sauce. You made some amazing cookies with chicharron, chocolate chip and chicharron. But anyways, Lola's dying to know, what was your cookbook journey? How'd you come up with the ideas? And what were some of the biggest challenges you face in the process of your cookbook?
Sure. And before, I would love to get into that. Before I do, I just want to let everybody know. So all I did was cut the tomatillos in half and putting them raw in the blender. And then I have some chile serrano, which is hotter than a jalapeno, but not as hot as like a habanero. I like it because it has more heat than jalapeno. So I'm going to start cutting up this and stick it into the blender. So yeah, so my cookbook journey, you know, I didn't really have, I felt like in a way I didn't really have an in necessarily. I'd never written a cookbook. I wasn't a recipe developer. You know, I didn't have a name already as, oh, I develop recipes, you know, as part of my career. Ooh, this smells amazing, by the way. There's nothing like cutting open a serrano, and it's delicious.
It's a quick question. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they're asking, you know, obviously this is like a super kid, family friendly recipe, vegetarian, but then some, Jeffrey Adams was asking, do the kids eat it? Is it a hot salsa?
My kids do not eat spicy. They're 2 and 5. So I understand this. I understand some young kids do eat spicy, but my kids don't like it. So in our house, the way that I cook is I have things served on the side, and the adults get to put, you know, the different toppings that they like, and the kids get to put the things that they want. So for my kids, I would just serve the plain taquito, and then I would ask them, do you want, or let them put it on, you know, do you want crema? They love crema. Do you want queso fresco? Do you want, you know, I don't think they would eat the salsa. So I make it for my husband and I, how we like it, which is hot. So I'm going to probably do a third chile serrano, and I don't know how hot these are, but I think three would probably be enough.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please continue on with your book journey. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. So I basically decided I hadn't seen a book like this in the marketplace. I wanted to write a book about Mexico City popular cooking, which is what I had been focusing on as leader of this tour company that I started in 2010, Eat Mexico. So I knew that there wasn't really a book like this in English in the marketplace. I knew that I had the expertise to write it. So it was, I had a vision in my head of, I think, a very clear idea of what I wanted to say and what recipes I wanted to include. And so then it was just a matter of convincing, you know, writing the proposal and convincing the publishers that this was something they should buy, right? So in order to write the proposal, I had a friend, my friend Fanny Gerson, who wrote Paletas. She wrote My Sweet Mexico. This is a raw garlic clove, by the way. She sent me her proposal, because I had never written one before, and starting with a book on how to write a proposal was very daunting. So she was like, no, here, read mine. And Fanny, that's classic Fanny. Fanny will give you whatever. She'll share anything with you. And so she gave me her proposal, and it was super helpful because I was able to see how she formatted it, which was great. I'm gonna add a little water to the blender, by the way. So I created the proposal. It took me about 10 months. I had to include every recipe that I thought I wanted to have in the book, but that was, I think, really great practice for me. And then it took me about 10 months to do the proposal while I was also like doing other stuff, leading my company, yada, yada, yada. And then this is a crazy story. So I didn't have an agent. I had talked to sort of one agent, and she was great, but at the end of the day, she was like, this is like a very niche book. I'm not sure it's for me. So I went to a Latina writers conference. So writers conference just for Latinas. It does not exist anymore, but it did at the time, and it was in New York City, and they had a table where you could give an elevator pitch of your book to 3 agents who were sitting on stage. So I walked up on the stage. In 30 seconds, I pitched my cookbook, which I had already written the proposal and spent a lot of time thinking about it. And one of the agents came up to me afterward and was like, hey, so do you have the proposal? Can you send it to me? And I said, yes. But I didn't say it like that. I was like, yes, I can send it to you. So I did. And I don't know, 3 or 4 months later, he called and was like, we want to sign you. So it's just,
yeah, no, that's amazing. That's good. It's a really good book. It's a really good book. It has have several pages knocked out. And then as we were starting to talk about folks to bring in for En Casa Cocina, I reached out to you. And also seeing your Instagram. That was great with the kids. I'm like, I got to bring her in.
Yeah, I would say the last thing on the book journey, though, the biggest challenge for me was like, writing a cookbook is project management, right? It's a huge project, like huge. It's you're making and developing. I did 125 recipes for my book all by myself, meaning I developed them. I hired some testers who helped me out with some stuff, but I had to go in there with an idea of 125 recipes that I was going to make. And a workflow, creating a workflow for how is all that going to happen? How many recipes do you need to develop and test in a day in order to meet your deadlines, right? So I broke it down into manageable chunks. I broke it down into chapters, and then I just, a friend who I adore from the bottom of my heart, Jirel Guzman, came and helped me like wash dishes and basically be my sous chef. And without her, I wouldn't have been able to do it as fast as I did. Because it's a lot of work. Okay, I'm gonna blend this. Let's see. Okay. In the book, I say to blend the garlic and chiles first. And if you have like a blender, I used a very old blender when I was testing my cookbook. But if you have like a Vitamix, you can just toss everything in, but everything goes in raw. That's the beauty of this salsa. Woo! Hot. They're hot. The chiles are hot. But my mom would tell me, don't stick your face in there.
Lesley?
Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry, just to recap for those, how many tomatillos did you put in there? What exact amounts for folks watching?
I always do so my recipe is 10 ounces. If you don't have a scale, I would just say like two hefty handfuls, or you could get a pound of tomatillos and do a pound if you wanted to do that. You can't really screw it up because once you taste it and you see like, oh, I don't really taste the chile, you can just add more. Or if you say, oh, it's too hot, I need more acidity, you can add more tomatillos. So that's all that's in there. You can also, the texture really depends on you. I did a little bit of water because sometimes the tomatillos tend to be like a little juicy, and I don't want to overdo it. So here's my salsa, and I wish you guys could smell it. It smells amazing. So the only other thing I'm going to add is a little bit of diced onion, and I call for, it's really like to taste. And in Mexico, it's most common to use white onion, which tends to be a little sharper. But you can really use, you know, I don't have white onion today, so I'm just going to do yellow onion. And the thing I like about adding the onion is it gives it a little texture, you know, like amid all the salsa is obviously a very monotonous texture. So the onion gives it like a little bit
crunch
and jazz. And it looks nice too. I think it's pleasing to look at. So usually I'm not the biggest fan of just raw onion in stuff, except on my taco. But it works here. So I'm just gonna cut up a little raw onion.
Lesley, I had some folks asking, Pastor Herrera was asking, since you were in Mexico City, did you ever go to the Yucateco restaurant called Hush Hanal? And Lecito.
Yes, I love that place. They have the most beautiful outdoor patio, you know, like terraza where you can sit in the centro. Yeah, I love it. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been in a long time. So I'm going to scrape my onion into my salsa, and then I'm going to cut my lime. Okay, and it's just I'm going to do, usually you get like, I just do a half lime. Usually I get maybe a tablespoon, I would say, of lime juice from like a juicy lime, from a half, I'm saying. So I'm gonna squeeze it in here. Look at how juicy and awesome that is. All right. And I probably would have tasted, honestly, before I added the lime to see how much I wanted. I always taste as I go. Okay, so I'm gonna stir it up. In my book, I also have a recipe for, or rather a variation that calls for sticking an avocado in it. So you can add the avocado directly to the blender if you want to make a creamier sauce, or you can dice the avocado and just stir it in. So I'm going to add in some cilantro, again, for texture and stuff and flavor. If you hate cilantro or you think it tastes like soap, you don't have to add it. And I do the stems. A lot of people say, like, I feel like before I lived in Mexico, I'd read these recipes saying, cilantro leaves only, like just the leaves. And it's like, no, the stems have a lot of flavor, so.
Yeah, I went to a Chinese restaurant a while back ago, and it was a pork dish, and it was just the pork tossed with the cilantro stems.
Ooh.
It was delicious. Yeah, I don't waste the stems at all. I chop them up really thin, or I just put them into the salsa as well.
Agreed. Okay, so I have my cilantro, I have my onion, I have my lime. Now we can taste it and see how much salt I think. I like a salty salsa. I mean, it needs to. Delish. Ooh, and you can taste the really hot serrano, but I think the heat is.
Yum.
Perfect.
Lesley?
Yes.
Lesley, Lola's asking, what are the most challenging Mexican ingredients for you to find in New York City?
The chiles are hard. The issue with sourcing Mexican ingredients in the United States is that it varies so much depending on where you are. So you're supposed to be writing a cookbook for everybody in the US. But how do you do that when what you tell somebody is labeled as, you know, an ancho in California might be called a pasilla, or the guajillos, you know, or the anchos, for instance, in New York City can be like this tall, which is weird. Like I'd never seen a tiny short, you know, ancho until I moved here and was like, is that really an ancho? But I looked at the color, smelled it, no, it smells like an ancho. But that affects, you know, if you're developing a recipe, a mole, and you say, oh, and you need 5 anchos. Are you talking the little tiny short guys? Or are you talking the traditional size? Plus, I feel like chiles are also mislabeled all over the place. And there's, you know, chile colorado in California and in New Mexico, but I don't really find chile colorado here in New York. I find guajillo, I find they have a lot of morita, like the smoked chipotle, like the berry colored one, not the leathery brown one. But if I'm gonna make a morita salsa, like in California, can you find morita at any corner store? I don't know. So I think that's the toughest thing, I think, is consistency with the chiles.
Do you have any online folks that might be able to help, especially for the dried ones?
Yeah, there's I mean, yeah, you can find, the thing is, like, most people, a lot of people maybe aren't going to order it online. They're just going to go to the store, I think, or go get those like little packets, you know, that they sell. Ooh, this is really good. Those packets that they sell, you know, in the Mexican aisle. I feel like the better thing to do if you're developing a recipe is honestly to do a weight for chiles, but I don't know if people would like that. But that's the most consistent. The other thing is the heat, right? Serranos that I buy at the store here, not as hot. Yet in Arizona, when I'm visiting my mother-in-law, or in California, I go to, you know, Northgate or wherever, and they're hot. They're hot. Here, not so much. I can use 4 or 5. So my recipe calls for like 6 chile serrano, or, you know, 10 chile de árbol fresco, because they're not that hot here. So yeah.
Maybe things get lost as they travel to New York.
Yeah, I think I would love to do a story, honestly, on like where the ingredients actually coming from, and something I've always wanted to do. And why is it that we end up with certain ingredients and other places end up with different ones?
I read a really interesting article about the chilies, that chile japonés y chile de árbol.
Yeah.
There's a competition. It's like China is producing a lot of those chilies in competition with the Mexican chili market.
Yeah, that's been happening for a long time, actually, since I think I can't remember exactly, but I was researching a story about that exact topic, and I think in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, I can't remember exactly, but there was a huge boom in China, Chinese chilies taking over, dried chilies taking over the market in Mexico. And I think it actually went down, but I don't know what it's like lately. So the salsa's done. I don't know if y'all can see it sort of through the, I like a chunkier salsa, so you can sort of see it. It's has a lot of texture. I like a salty salsa. So I might have added like a teaspoon-ish maybe of kosher salt. With not kosher salt, just regular iodized salt, you probably add a little bit less, but it's, you know, al gusto. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start heating up our tortillas for our tacos.
Okay, I got another question here by Pastor Herrera. Do you prefer to make the guacamole with tomatillos or with regular tomatoes?
Guacamole?
Uh-huh.
I mean, either one, honestly. I don't have a preference. The way I learned in cooking school was red tomato. And you dice it with onion, or you kind of mash it in your molcajete, and then you do the avocados at the end. But I think they're both delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to move you over to heat up the tortillas here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. Okay. Let me see here. Let me move you a little bit. There we go. Is that good?
That's
okay.
Good.
So the reason we want to so here are my tortillas, by the way. What I usually do is I buy like 5 pounds at a time from our tortilleria, and then I just put them in 1 pound bags and freeze them in the freezer in Ziplocs. So I just took these out today. So then I don't have to keep going back a lot. So that's what I do. So that's why they're in a Ziploc bag, because I just put them in the freezer. But it's great because yeah, I don't have to keep going back, and I feel like it saves me some time. But yeah, they are a little tougher than the freshly purchased tortillas from the tortilla or from the Mexican market. But in this case, we're going to be frying them and stuff, so I think that it's fine. And honestly, nobody complains in my house. Everybody eats them up. So I'm going to heat them up in my comal. You can see this round, heavy steel griddle that I have is how I'm heating up the tortillas. It does take a while, but I feel like, especially if you're cooking for, what I'm saying is it doesn't take a while to heat the tortillas up necessarily. You're just constantly sitting here putting them in the thing. The microwave is faster, but they don't taste the same. They're not as good. And in the microwave, I feel like they can, I don't know.
They're steamed. They're
yeah.
steamed, so it just kind of softens them a little bit too much.
Crispness. Yeah. So I like to take the time. Granted, I probably am only heating up 12, maybe 15 at the most. I have a bigger comal that I'll take out if I'm cooking for a lot more people. When my kids are teenagers, I may be like, just heat them in the microwave. I'm not going to heat 5 tortillas. I'm not going to do it because it's only me doing all this.
We just last year, prior to COVID, we participated with KCRW. We had a tortilla festival, like LA's best tortilla, the flour tortilla or the corn tortilla.
Yeah.
And there's been such a renaissance. We work with Hacienda. We have a Kernel of Truth, Sonora Cafe that also brings in their flour in from Sonora. They have beautiful flour tortillas.
Yeah.
And I know you moderated a conversation on corn. There was a corn symposium in New York.
Right. Yeah. Tortillas. I love these warmers, by the way, that are like pockets because they do keep them super steamy and hot, more than like the plastic warmers or the dish towel, just a dish towel alone. But yeah, Jimena, your question about the corn symposium. My friend Mira Evnine organized this symposium just about corn in all of its different applications and the history and challenges happening right now with corn. And it was amazing. And I got to lead a talk on the corn tortilla in New York. So what's happening, like what you said about there being a renaissance. There's so many tortillerias that are opening up across the country in places that haven't traditionally had, a Mexican or Mexican-American community, because more people want higher quality tortillas. And so a lot of people are opening these tortillerias as a way to like connect to their heritage. But they recognize that not everybody wants anymore just the tortilla that's sold in the package, right? The Mission or Gruma corn tortilla, it does not taste as good.
No, I think once you've had an organic, GMO-free corn tortilla, it's hard to go back.
Yes.
It's really hard to go back.
For sure.
And luckily here in Los Angeles, we have a couple folks who offer those partisan tortillas. They're just so delicious. And what's nice, Ricardo, he came and did a talk for us for, oh gosh.
Kernel of Truth, right?
Blanks. Kernel of Truth, thank you. And he did this great thing. He had like a smell challenge, like the fresh tortilla versus the stuff you get in the supermarket. You can smell the chemicals. He had a taste, and just like really so much passion behind him in the process and kind of bringing back those old school ways. And again, there's been like a renaissance as youth who's like now searching, and now he supplies these either the masa or the tortillas to these high-end restaurants. Yeah. So folks are really acknowledging the difference between the stuff that we get at the supermarkets.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And Kernel of Truth is one of my favorite tortillas that I've tried. But yeah, I encourage everybody, if you you would maybe think like, oh, they may not have really great corn tortillas where I am, but Google it, you know, there might be a place. You know, some Mexican supermarkets will make tortillas from nixtamal, corn tortillas from the actual grain that they're grinding on site from the corn. Some of them just open up a bag of corn flour and pour it in, and you know, pour it in with water. But there might be a tortilleria, you know, that sells really great tortillas near you. I don't know about Colombia. The Colombians might. Oh no, you know what? I think I did hear about a place in Colombia. And I can't remember where it is now. Maybe it was Bogota. I can't remember. In any case, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to grate my carrot. So I just take regular old carrots and I use a box grater, and I'm going to put my carrot in this bowl, and that's the only ingredient in carrot tacos. Here it is, everyone. So I'm going to grate the carrot. When I was developing this recipe, I thought like, oh, I'm gonna try to do a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna put a bunch of spices. I'm gonna cook the carrot because raw carrot in a taco is not gonna be very good. I'm gonna put cumin. I'm gonna do all of these things. And I went back to the very first recipe every single time, which was salted, raw, grated carrot. And that's it. That's all that's in the book. So you can do whatever you want, but that's the thing that I found to be the best.
Besides Hacienda and Kernel of Truth, I'm going to try looking while you're grading the carrots. There's another group, but they're based out of Mexico. Taxomil?
Well, there's another group. They're called Tamoa.
Samoa.
Yeah.
They just did on Instagram of a gentleman in New York. While you're peeling away, I'm going to look for it. But how he, to keep his traditions alive and to remember his ancestors, it's a really beautiful storytelling where he cooks it at home, he grinds it, he shifts it, and then he makes tamales. He makes, like, after all this, like 100 tamales out of it.
Oh, wow. I should.
So let me look them up.
I love Tamoa. They're awesome too. The owners are just really great people. And I love how on their Instagram they spotlight a bunch of different farmers and types of corn. They're also selling, like Hacienda does, they sell to restaurants and stuff in the US. So we're gonna grate our carrots. So I think that's all I'm going to do for now. The recipe calls for like 5 cups of grated carrot, which seems like a lot, but I usually do use it all. But I'm just going to do this for right now. So then the next thing we do is just put the carrot in the tortilla. So I'm going to clear off. This is my one prep counter in my New York City kitchen, by the way. So I'm kind of cleaning as I go. I don't have the luxury of going to another clean counter. This is pretty much it. All right, so let me move this off to the side and get another. Okay, so we have our tortillas here. I have some toothpicks, and basically what we're going to do is get a tortilla out, roll it up. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to heat up the oil so it starts to heat up and the carrots don't get really soggy. So let me do that. Can y'all see me over here? Yeah, good. thought about like doing these in an air fryer, and I wonder how that would go. That could be interesting if anybody has an air fryer. I have made these in the oven. If you are like, oh, I don't want to fry anything, which is totally fine. I've just done the toothpicks and then baked them at like 400, 425. And that also works too. But they have like more of a toasty flavor. I'm trying to remember how much oil.
I found he's in New York. The guy I was telling about, it was through Eater. I'm sorry. It's New York City's Puebla Tamal Shop.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, where he makes everything there on site.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. Okay. So we're gonna heat up our oil. I definitely would like to read that article though. That sounds really neat. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get our get our tortilla, and do one. You can see the steam rising. I don't know if y'all saw that. They're very hot. And there is two sides to the tortilla, by the way. I don't know.
That's a baby one.
Yeah, these are little. The side that you want, one side tends to be like a little. It has air pockets in it, so it's like a little puffier kind of. That's the side that you want to put the filling. Okay. So I'm going to grab a little bit of carrot. Oh, you know what? I didn't put my salt in. Just yammering on and on about stuff and forgot my salt. Okay, so I'm going to add a half a teaspoon kosher salt. I use Diamond Crystal, but I'm not going to add the whole half a teaspoon because this isn't, just going to salt it a little bit. All right. So we're salting our carrot. I'm going to add it to our tortilla. And then that's pretty much it. I'm adding carrot to my tortilla, as you can see. I'm rolling it up. And I'm gonna get my toothpick. I usually like to do 2 toothpicks, honestly, because one usually is not enough. Get my toothpick and close it. So you can see I've used 2 toothpicks. I don't know if y'all can see. And here's the little carrot taco. So we're gonna leave that one there and just continue on the next carrot taco. And if I was by myself, meaning the kids were not around, I'd have my music on. The last time I made these, I had Linda Ronstadt, Canciones de mi Padre playing. You can play whatever, obviously, cooking music you like. But yeah, we roll them up.
Lesley, I remember you had when you had your cookbook out and you came to Plaza, you told us a great story how you were in search of one of the ladies, asking her how to make one of her famous avocados. What is it?
Yeah, so this is my book, by the way, everybody. I know he might have held it up. So yes, so when I lived in Mexico City, this is when I started to fall in love with, have my own masa awakening, right? My own corn tortilla awakening, and kind of my realization that corn tortillas were for me part of like living indigenous history and heritage. That was my history and heritage too. And that there was so much more to this food than I had realized. So part of what led me there was eating these things called tlacoyos on the streets of Mexico City. So they're these, I had never had them before. I moved there, and they're these oval-shaped masa patties that kind of look like flattened footballs. And a lot of times they make them with blue corn masa. So you see these women, because it's always women working with masa. It's men working the molinos in the tortillerías, but it's women who are actually usually in Mexico City on the streets anyway, touching the masa, shaping the masa. And that's part of also the ancestral heritage in Mexico, right? Women are the gatekeepers of that knowledge traditionally for thousands of years, which I think is also so cool. So yeah, I saw these things, these tlacoyos, I saw these women sitting on buckets, right? Overturned plastic buckets, reaching our hands into a bucket at their feet full of masa, you know, this blue corn masa, and shaping it, filling it with their hands, like with a smear of either refried beans or ground fava beans or requesón, sort of like a ricotta style cheese, but like a little saltier. And they would fill it with their hands and they would shape it closed and they would pat it. They would be hand patting this masa, you know, these tlacoyos on the streets of Mexico City. You can hear them. And they'd have these big comales, I mean, not this, like this, really, wood fired, right in front of them, you know, like, I just thought the whole thing was amazing. And so you'd walk by and you would smell the toasted corn and you would smell, you would hear, you know, the hand patting, and I wanted whatever that was. Like, I didn't know what it was, but there was no menu. I'm like, I'm gonna have that. I want what that person's having. So they would cook the tlacoyo until it was crisp on both sides, and then they would put cheese, salsa, and cooked cactus strips on top. And then you ate it, and it was just, still is my absolute favorite thing to eat. So my favorite spot in all of Mexico City was this spot on Calle Lopez. And I think these are ready. And I would go there and sit and order the same thing. I wanted the tlacoyo de haba, like a fava bean tlacoyo. And I really wanted to learn how to make these. And in cooking school, we spent like a day. I'm like, oh, it's not enough time. I want to know. I want to know it. I want to just learn it. And so I was talking, I'm going to put these in so they can start cooking. So I started talking with the vendor, and I asked her, she was very friendly. I asked her, you know, is there any way, like, this was over the course of many visits, by the way. Like, I sort of just we would talk, and I was like, you know, I really want to learn how to make tlacoyos. And she was like, oh yeah, you know. And I'm like, I'm kind of like looking about, I'm hoping I could find somebody who can teach me how to make tlacoyos. And she was like, uh-huh. And I said, she said, well, you know, it's something you have to learn by doing. It's not something that you can really easily teach somebody. And I'm going to have to move you over here now to the front.
So Lesley, we've got about 12 minutes or so.
Okay.
Más o menos, a little less.
All right.
But do share your story, though. Please continue.
Yeah. So what happened was, she said, you have to learn by doing. And I said, okay, so I don't know, like, do you think that means, you know, maybe like I would have to learn at somebody's house, right? And she was like, yeah, you know. I'm like, so what if I came to your house? You know, heart pounding, like, do I even dare ask? And I did. And she was like, oh, yeah, you could do that. And I said, I can. And she said, yes, you can come to my house. But I still didn't think it was going to happen, because in Mexico City, everybody tells you yes for all sorts of reasons, but they don't actually mean it, because it's considered rude to say no. So people will just say yes all day long. Like, yeah, I'll meet you for coffee. Yeah, I'll do this thing. Yes, you can come to my house and Valle del Bravo, whatever you want. But they don't actually mean it. It's just the way that it works. So I didn't believe her, and I did not get my hopes up. And I'm just pan frying these, by the way, until they're crispy. And the heat's on medium high. So,
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, they're just asking. I know it's kind of tough for us to see what's inside the pan going on, because or on your laptop.
Do you want me to show you?
If real quick, if it's possible, so you know, how deep is,
There's not that much oil. I would say I used maybe, this is a 12-inch pan, and I used like, there's 4 of them that fit, and I used like, I don't know, there's maybe a half a cup of oil. I'll show you guys.
Okay.
You sort of see with, I can turn on this light also. That help?
So it's a little bit more than pan frying.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. It is a little bit more, but it's not quite deep frying. I guess somewhere in between. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and usually I have the oil like a little hotter, honestly, so they're cooking a little bit faster. In any case, with Senora Rosa, that was her name. That is her name. She invited me out, and so I took the bus to her house. She was like, come this Saturday, like she told me which day. I took the bus to her house. I went out there. It was like an hour and 20 minutes away. And she said, call me when you get off the bus. So of course I got there super early. I had some consommé because they had the barbacoa in the plaza. Of course, I love Mexico. They had the plaza, the barbacoa. I had a taco. I had some consommé. And then she came out, and then I was like, okay, we're actually doing this. So I went to her house, and she taught me the whole day long. She taught me how to make bacoyos. My feet were killing me. We went to the mill. We ground the blue corn masa that she buys the corn from her community. We went to the mill. We did everything, like everything from scratch. She grinds her beans on the metate. Like, now you know why they're so amazing, why her tlacoyos are so good. But yeah, and then at the end of the day, I was gonna fall asleep. I was so tired. She's like, well, I'm off. I'm gonna go. I think she's right now, she's probably in her 70s, I'm sure. But she's like, well, I have to go see my parents, so I'm gonna say bye. And I was like, oh, like her parents are still alive, like, and she's just full of energy. So I'm gonna get the tacos out because they're done. And usually I do this kind of thing. I do, if I'm making them at home, I do a baking sheet with a wire rack on top, and you can just warm them, keep them warm in the oven. But right now for you guys, I'm only making a handful, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna set some paper towels down on a plate just to drain some of the oil. And then I'll quickly take out the toothpicks and plate them, and you can see, you can sort of see, can everybody see how they're kind of like doraditos? You can see?
But that's such a great story, Lesley, about, you know, her being brave to let a stranger into her home. You learning a tradition how to make them. Have you made them since after the post cookbook?
Yes, I have. And she, every time I see her, you know, I try so hard to go and see her when I go back, and it doesn't always happen because I don't have a phone number, and I can only really sort of show up at her stand, and she's not there all the time. But yes, I have made them, and I need to make them more often, honestly, in order to get the practice to become more of an expert. And she always teases me when I go back, like, oh, when are you going to start your tlacoyo business? And I'm like, no. I'm gonna start. So I'm going to put a couple of these taquitos on a plate. I'm going to take out the toothpicks, and I'll show you guys kind of how we do this. Take out the toothpicks. They just slide out pretty easily. I have tried to do it without toothpicks. That didn't
All part.
Let's just do toothpicks. It's easier. Okay, so I have some crema. This is the brand they sell just at my local market. I have not seen this brand. So it's just Mexican crema. And I slather it on top on the taquitos, and it kind of melts a little bit.
For those watching, if you signed up via Zoom, we will have this recipe available to you. And also we'll be reposting this interview here on our Facebook and also on our YouTube to follow along.
I do a little bit of the salsa. Oh my gosh, you guys, this looks so good. We're getting very excited.
People are really eager to see the final product here. We got Gloria Mejia. She wants to see it all.
Okay. I've also used feta, like feta cheese, because I didn't have queso fresco one time. Okay, so I'm gonna sort of tilt this so you guys can see. Can you see it? Is this a good angle?
There you go. Delicious. That looks so crunchy and healthy and spicy all in one bite.
Yes.
It looks
And I usually
good.
serve this with just with beans, honestly. Frijoles de la olla, rice. Yeah, I'm gonna take a bite if that's cool.
Absolutely.
You're making us jealous.
Mm.
Well, Jeffrey Adams, he has to go, but he's trying to wait till the last moment. He has a 4 o'clock Zoom, but he wants to hang on there until he sees you take that bite.
It was delicious. The thing about these tacos is the carrot is sweet, right? It has a natural sweetness that comes out when it gets all steamed in this little taquito. And then you have the acidity from the salsa and the creaminess from the crema. So it kind of has everything you want.
And don't forget that crunch. That's what Deborah Cooperberg Kruger says, the crunch. Well, thank you so much to everybody. While she's munching away, I'll take over for a little while here. We had from Deborah Cooperberg Kruger, hello from West Covina, Griselda Navarro from Ventura. We had Carolina Hernandez all the way from Colombia. Jeffrey Adams in LA, Roberta Martinez, Pasadena, David Damian Figueroa says, hi, Jimena, here in La Quinta. Virginia Rosas from Ontario, David Gallardo from Ventura, and maybe a neighbor of yours, Derek Leon, Washington from El Barrio in East Harlem.
All right.
So they're coming in from all over. Everybody's thanking you. And we thank you. Thank you, the viewers that are out there hanging in with us for this last hour on En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. You will catch, if you came in late, don't worry. We've recorded this Zoom webinar. We'll be posting it on our YouTube page and also on our website. And you could catch, of course, Lesley, along with all this month. We had Lola from Lola's Kitchen giving us the breakfast molletes. Maite, Rejon Gomez, cocktails, a margarita and a paloma. John Rivera Sedler with chile rellenos, with Hatch chili, and Lucy Thompson with cocktails. And next month, we're going to take Monday off, right, Jimena?
Yes, it's a nice little break. Be thinking about y'all, but yes, a little break is nice.
Nice little break for Labor Day. So we won't be having La Plaza Cocina, but throughout the week, we'll be showing the best of En Casa con La Plaza. So stay tuned to check out that schedule. But starting back on the 5th, no, I'm looking at the wrong sheet here. Oh no, on the 14th, Barbara Burrell from Sky Tacos. On the 14th, Eliseo Lara from Mexico City, right?
Yes, so you're making polvorones for us.
Polvorones, tricolor. And then on the 28th, Moderna Cocina showing us vegetarian tacos and cilantro pesto. So, you know, the best of Mexican cuisine, you'll find it here at En Casa con la Plaza, along with a lot of other sessions. Just coming up this week, of course, you could find our schedule on our website at laplazala.org, on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA. All of our sessions are there. Like as Jimena mentioned, this is a big weekend commemorating the Chicano Moratorium. And this Wednesday, we have a great program, the Chicano Moratorium Aftermath. People who have participated as young people in the moratorium, they'll be telling us their stories of what they've done afterwards of being forces within their community. Willie Herron, the muralist, Chuy Velo, civil rights, Margarita Cuaron, Mita Cuaron, an artist in health, and Mariana Yepes in education. So that's it for now. Thank you so much. Lesley.
Thank you. This was super fun. Thank you, everyone.
Glad you enjoyed it. And Jimena, one last word.
Oh, no, thanks for everybody, Abelardo and Lesley. Lesley, I can't wait to have you back and have some more of your recipes from your delicious cookbook. Thank you so much. Gracias.
Okay.
Que adiós a todos from En Casa
Bye,
con la Plaza.
everyone.
Have a great day.